Colin, let's get into the second topic here. And this is going to factor into one of the other changes that you mentioned in your article. It's going to be the fact that free agents can negotiate with their current teams right after the NBA Finals. So the Finals wrapped up just a few days ago. And in the aftermath of that, we saw a new contract be presented to Malik Monk of the Sacramento Kings. So he is going to sign a 4-year, $78 million deal. The real cherry on top for him is the player option in 27-28. So that $21.6 million is going to be player option. He can opt out after 3 if he so chooses. So this is a 3+1 for Malik. Just a little sweetener, extra flexibility. So if he decides he wants to test the market again, he has the ability to do so. So I think it was Bobby Marks reported earlier that the Kings were about $16.4 million below the tax before this agreement. So they're really kind of using that flexibility in order to sign Malik to this deal here. And this was their real first order of business for this offseason. There's probably going to be a couple other moves. At least I would hope so. This team definitely has some limitations, and they're not quite a contender. So they're probably going to make some more maneuvers here to try to bolster their team. But, I mean, they really needed to keep Malik Monk around. In my opinion, my humble opinion, he was the best sixth man in the NBA this past season. Averages of almost 16 points a game, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. By far his best season in the NBA. Shot 37% from 3. Didn't start a game, but he plays starters minutes. He's a huge part of that team. A 27% assist rate last season. Career highs in assist percentage, assist to usage ratio. He had some incredible scoring games. There was a 39-point game that he had when they played the Timberwolves in the second half of the season, and he had 35 of 39 after halftime. We actually talked about that on a former podcast. So just looking at what Malik brings to the table for this team, this was a no-brainer. You give him the max amount of years. You give him the max amount of money. You maintain a guy that, yes, he comes off the bench for that team, but he is a starter-level player, and he is not only a scorer for them, but he's a very high-level distributor for them. So there's a lot of pick and rolls that he'll run with Sabonis and some of the other big men. He is great with just handling the ball, just keeping things flowing, really being a point guard for them. And he can play alongside Fox, but he can also lead the charge. So just looking at what everything Monk brings to the table for the Kings, it's pretty clear why they made this deal. So as soon as the season ended, they said, hey, Malik, this is what we can offer you. What do you think? And you saw the money and you said, hey, that sounds good to me. So win-win for both sides. I look at the dollar figures for every season. You're looking at an average annual value of, I would say, about $19 million. So I think for a six-man of the year type guy, very reasonable, seems very fair to me. And maintaining a guy with that much talent is only going to be a win for the Kings. So now it's just about what they're going to do to follow this up. But I think it was a great deal. It makes a lot of sense. What do you think on your end, Colin, as far as seeing this deal, seeing the value? Do you think this was a no-brainer for the Kings?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a no-brainer for the Kings. It depends as far as ownership is concerned, and being, because now they're hovering right around the tax. They'll be over the tax when they fill out the roster unless they make some moves. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of moves they make, if the moves are going to be to decrease the salary to get under that tax, or if they're going to go big and say, look, it's time to go in and get into the tax 1 year. Because I think if they sign their pick and with all current contracts, they're like right at the cap, and then they have to fill in a couple more spots. So they're right around it. They could make moves. Herter, that contract might be something that they could look to move to clear up some space. But one key important point of all this is that the tax doesn't affect the team until the last day of the regular season. That's when they really take a snapshot of, okay, this is your team salary this year. And then this is what they make some adjustments, but this is what you're either going to pay in tax or you're going to get a revenue share. So if they can start going through the season over the tax, it's not going to affect if they're a quote unquote tax team or not until the end of the regular season. So hypothetically, they could go into the season just over the tax, see where they're at as far as being a legitimate contender in the West. If they think that they're going to, really be a contender, they can go all in and stick with the team and even build on it. And if they're really kind of falling apart, then they can unload some salary and get under the tax. And that's where the flexibility will come. So that's probably what I assume they would end up doing, especially in the off season. They can keep looking for other deals. Like I said, I think that Herter, I could see Herter getting moved. He didn't have the best year last year. If they can move him and some picks and get someone else in, maybe to help defensively, I think that would be big for them. But as far as the Malik contract is concerned, where they're coming from, I think like you said, I think it's a no-brainer value-wise for them. That kind of money these days is nothing.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, in 2 years when the cap goes up another 10%, and he's, let me see, he's going to get paid estimated. He'll be getting still under $20 million, and the cap is going to be, roughly 150. I mean, that's really nothing for a 6-man. Probably should have been 6-man of the year last year. And then I think he's in a good situation. I think he might have taken a pay cut depending on if he went into the open market. The problem is that there's just not a lot of salary. He's in that mid range, and those guys just don't get paid anymore because everyone's in the cap, right? So if you enter free agency, it's like, how many teams have the cap space for you to come in and play and pay more than what he just got paid? That's the toughest part. You got to think that someone would be out there, but then it's like, well, do I want to go to the that specific team? I think that Orlando might have been a good fit. Philly, if they're not making a big splash with Paul George, I think he would have been a great fit there and probably would have gotten paid more money. But I think he's set up great. He is obviously a great fit there. And then like you said, he's a 3+1, so he gets out, I think, in his year 29. So
right in his prime.
Yeah, he'll get another nice, lucrative multi-year deal that he can really cash in if he keeps playing like this. So I think if he continues to perform and even get better, he'll be set up for another big payday.
Absolutely, Colin. Looking at the percentage of the cap that Malik's deal could take up in 2 years, I'm looking at it right now on our website. It's calculated to be about 12% of the cap. If we're using a roughly $150 million estimate on that, 12% is nothing. So just to kind of reinforce,
I think our the projections that we're using are conservative for the salary cap, because we're using the standard projections that project out. We're not using what everyone assumes is going to be the 10% increase after the TV deal comes in. So it's probably more going to be more. I just did the math. It's going to be around 155. So it's
in that case, maybe even 11 or less percent at that point of the cap. Right.
So that's again for a 6-man of the year type player who brings that much contribution to the team. And you saw the difference when he was hurt, how the team performed. So I think it's a no-brainer for them. I think he might have gotten a little undervalued, but again, it's a little tough when you enter free agency with that type of range of salary. And I think he'll set himself up for another payday in the end.
Oh, yeah. And we got to remember here, the Kings didn't have full bird rights on Malik either. So they were a little bit limited as far as what they can offer him. He was early bird. So he wasn't absolutely maxed out. Was maxed out within the confines of early bird contract. But it wasn't quite the same as if he had been with the team another season. So something else to just take into consideration.
Right. Which they could have, he could have tried to gamble on it and get another year in and then let the cap go up 10% and then try to go in with full birds with them. But why even mess around? Like, take your money, get paid again in a couple of years. He'll do fine.
Yeah, he'll do fine with $78 million. I think that's still a win for him. And plus, like you said, he's in a perfect situation. So I think if you can get the money, even if it's maybe a little bit less than what you could have got on the open market, but you're with a team that you're comfortable with, you have great teammates, you love your coaches, the system benefits you, he had a career season, it makes sense to stay with that team. So kind of leading from there, if you're looking at the next contract that you said he could be eligible for in his age 29 season, if you stick with the team that you had your best years with, it's just going to make your following contract that much more lucrative, just being that strong of a player. I quickly wanted to go over that the possibility of the Kings shipping off Herter. You look at his contract. I mean, he's owed about 42 million over the next 2 seasons. So looking at that, and then, the fact that he was hurt towards the end of the last season and kind of shifting gears over to who replaced him, Keon Ellis had a very strong end to the season. So in their minds, maybe they've come to find out that Keon Ellis, with what he brings to the team, is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than what Herter offers, making whatever the percentage is more, like vastly more money. I mean, Keon is in veterans minimum territory as far as what he's making. And this coming season is not even fully guaranteed. So you look at his value to the team, less than $3 million. Maybe it does make sense to ship off Herter and try to fill that position, or kind of shift gears and maybe find a player that plays a different position to fortify the team, maybe save money. You mentioned that they're going to be at the tax. So there's a lot of different things they can do with Herter having 2 years left and having that type of money. It gives them a lot of different options there, especially if they think Ellis is the future in that backcourt along with Monk and Fox.
Yeah, it might not be the best contract out there, but there's plenty of teams who need shooting, who need 3-point shooting, so
yeah,
it's not the worst contract in the world. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that they might be able to find a suitor who can absorb that salary. Orlando, they need shooting. A team like that, depending on what's coming back, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens this offseason.
Absolutely. It's a big season for the Kings. They had a lot of success, but they just want to keep rising the ranks. I don't think they're satisfied with the play-in appearance, so they want to keep that going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, after 2 years ago, when they battled it out with Golden State, I think that gave them the bug. They still got Mike Brown, and they played well last year, but they're just missing something. They need another piece to get them over the hump into true Western Conference contenders. I think they need one more key piece.
Yeah, we need to keep an eye on them because I think, like the Bulls, they're not done. This is just the start of their offseason.